Return to Silent Hill has 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics are tearing it apart. Fans of the game are furious. And I watched this movie expecting the worst of 2026. And I actually enjoyed it. I know. Hear me out. It wasn't as bad as everyone was saying it was. And I'm not afraid to say it. And as someone who played all the Silent Hill games and loved the first film, I think a lot of people are missing what this movie is actually trying to do and say. And today I am going to defend Return to Silent Hill, break down the complex symbolism and trauma, and explain how I see it. And it'll be spoiler free. So let's dive into the fog. When I saw the trailer for this movie, and I never watched trailers, but I was in theaters, so I was really excited. Then the reviews started coming out. People were saying it completely missed the point of the game, that the CGI was cheap, it was, but that it was a disjointed mess. So I watched this movie with rock bottom expectations. But here's the thing about low expectations. When you think a movie is bad, they actually set you to appreciate what a film does. And the opposite. I've heard so many times that, oh, this is the scariest movie ever. And then I watch it, I'm like, really? From the opening scenes of this movie, I felt something nostalgic. Hearing that alarm, that siren, is just a nostalgic rush. It's Akira's soundtrack washing over you all over again. It immediately transported me back. They don't get what it feels like when you're in the game rather than just watching a movie. And this is coming from someone who hates CGI and cartoonish animated films. I'm not easy to please when it comes to CGI movies, but this hit different. Let's talk about what Silent Hill 2, the game, is actually about. On the surface, it's about James going to Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his dead wife, Mary. But when you first play it and get introduced into the world, you realize it's about depression, trauma, and your conscious and subconscious self. The town of Silent Hill is a manifestation of James' guilt and a psychological breakdown. Every monster, every dark hallway, every unsettling moment is a reflection of what's happening inside his mind. It's brilliant. Subtle storytelling that doesn't hold your hand and spoon feed you. I love movies like that. The game is about watching someone you love die slowly and what it does to you. It's about the part of yourself that you discover in these kind of moments. The dark parts, selfish, the parts that want suffering to end. Now this movie takes this and runs with it. Mary dies from illness. There's some ambiguity in the film about the exact nature of it, whether it's connected to a cult or she's poisoned. But what really matters is the exploration of what this kind of loss does to someone. This is real life horror. It's not monsters for the sake of monsters. This is the horror of watching someone you love suffer, feeling completely helpless, and living with the aftermath of what you did or didn't do. The movie adds layers to the story that deepen the trauma and make James' psychological breakdown even more justified. Without spoiling anything, the film explores additional dimensions of loss that compound James' guilt in ways that feel devastating and real. Here's where the movie gets really deep, and I think a lot of people are missing this. All the different manifestations we see aren't random. They're either all Mary or James. They're perceptions of themselves and each other. Let me break down what these different versions represent. There was Mary's inner child. This is innocence. This was the person before illness consumed her, before the cult, and before the pain took over. Her light, the idealized memory, the woman he fell in love with, the happy moments. This is when James remembers Mary, who she was. And then we have her darkness, the pain, anger, resentment, the suffering and the bitterness that comes with being chronically ill and dying. Here's what's important. This isn't just James seeing her this way. Mary herself would feel these emotions. Being sick for that long, knowing you're dying, watching your body betray you, it brings rage at everything. At your body, the fate, and even the people who are trying to help you and actually can't. The monstrous forms. These represents James' guilt, but also his complicated feelings during her illness. When you're taking care of someone who's dying slowly, you experience these conflicting emotions. Part of the person you love is already gone. You're grieving them while they're still alive. And sometimes you just wish it would all end. Not because you don't love them, but because watching them suffer is far worse. And that wish, that human wish, creates enormous guilt. And some of these manifestations are James himself. His guilt, his selfishness, his fear, his desperate desire to escape the situation. The movie is constantly shifting between Mary's perception and James. When you see the monsters, when you see the different versions of Mary and James, you're seeing how James sees her, but also how Mary might see herself. Fragmented, broken, no longer the person you used to be. That's why the imagery feels so chaotic and layered. That's why a lot of people are confused about this movie. It's supposed to feel like multiple realities overlapping, because that's what trauma does. It fractures your sense of reality. The more James tries to help Mary, the deeper in despair he goes. He's drowning trying to save her. Caregivers of chronically ill people often experience depression rates higher than the patients themselves. They lose themselves completely trying to save the other person. The movie shows us that Mary forgave him. She understood why he did what he did. She released him of that burden. But here's what's profound. Her forgiveness doesn't matter. He can never forgive himself. And he lived with that guilt and resentment for a long time. And these completely human, completely understandable feelings make him, in his own eyes, a monster. Okay, so strip away the cult, the fog, the mythology. What you have at the core is a story about depression after loss. It's about the stages of grief, not in a neat, linear way. Grief doesn't work like that. It's clinical, chaotic, overlapping. The movie's disjointed timeline and shifting realities reflects this truth. Trauma doesn't resolve in 3 acts. The horror elements aren't just for scares, they're metaphors for what these experiences actually feel like from the inside. Intrusive memories feel like being attacked by your own mind. Guilt feels like being pursued by something monstrous that you could never escape because it's inside you watching. Here's my interpretation of what's actually happening in this movie, and this is where it gets really interesting. I think, just like in the first movie, there's a deeper layer to what we're watching. The film plays with liminal spaces, those in-between states where reality isn't quite what it seems. Silent Hill, the town itself, represents something more than just a haunted location. It's a space where souls confront their demons, where unresolved trauma plays out in a physical form, where forgiveness has to be earned or accepted before anyone can find peace. We've seen this kind of storytelling in so many other movies, Sixth Sense, Jacob's Ladder, The Others, where what we're watching on the surface isn't the complete picture, and the reality we're experiencing is something actually else. The whole movie is about consciousness trying to find each other, trying to find forgiveness, reconcile all the fragmented parts of themselves and each other. James is trying to integrate his guilt, his relief, love, resentment. Mary, on the other hand, is trying to integrate her illness, her anger, love for James, all the parts of herself that got lost in the suffering. Without spoiling the specifics, the film adds dimensions to this loss that make the weight of James' guilt almost unbearable. The movie explores how some losses are compounded, how you can lose not just one thing, but an entire future, an entire identity, multiple versions of what you could have been. And you know what? I just love a movie that doesn't spell out everything, doesn't spoon feed us the answers. Different people are going to walk away with different interpretations. Some will see it as James having a psychological breakdown. I see it as a meditation on death, grief, and the impossibility of self-forgiveness. When you've hurt someone you love, or even just failed to save them, and that ambiguity, that's what makes it worth discussing. And it's not just another horror movie. The movie becomes different things. Movies become different things to different people based on what they think and happen to them. Like Skinamarink, for example. I don't want to get into that movie. We'll talk about that later. People who've had traumatic childhood experiences, neglect, they're the ones who like the movie. But I kind of had like a normal upbringing, and I thought the movie was boring. That's what makes horror movies beautiful, because everyone has their own experience. And the game did that too. How you interpret James' journey based on your understanding of guilt and grief and trauma. So I think that's what they were trying to do. They didn't succeed that well, but it wasn't as bad as everyone was saying. I've seen worse, believe me. By all means, I'm not saying this movie is perfect. The CGI is rough in places. Some scenes are confusing if you're not willing to engage with the symbolism. I completely understand why some critics didn't vibe with this movie. This is an interpretation and remixing of themes and with added elements that weren't in the original, but I think that's okay. I think there's room for adaptation, that take risks, that try something different, even if they don't always stick to landing perfectly. I'd rather watch a messy, ambitious film that swings for the fences and misses sometimes than a technically competent film that plays it safe and says nothing. Here's why I think this movie matters despite all its flaws. Horror works best when it's about something real. For me, the best horror films are about trauma, grief, unbearable aspects of human existence that we can't face directly, so we dress them up as monsters and ghosts. Return to Silent Hill is trying to be about the complicated grief, the burnout, compound loss. Does it always succeed? No, but I respect it deeply for attempting to portray these experiences honestly. Those are the things that actually keep people up at night, not jump scares and CGI monsters. And if you've seen Silent Hill 2, I would love to see what you think. Write in the comments below. And even if you hate it, it's still okay. I think horror fans are the most intelligent people. Seriously, they are. And of course, the most loyal. And that's why when I say, when you watch recommendations, don't always listen to them, because you feel something else that they might not. So watch any movie you like, feel anyhow you like to feel, even if 90% of people loved it. If you hated it, so what? Vice versa. Everyone hated this movie. Everyone is bashing it. But I'm honest. I'm not afraid to tell you what I think. And remember, the movies that get torn apart by critics are the ones that are actually taking risks. And sometimes those movies are worth defending. If horror feels like home, join the Dominion. I'll see you in the fog.